Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Allie. Today is not a beauty video, but I will have all of my makeup that's on my face down below for you if you want to check it out. You can also jump over to my Instagram to see the makeup worn as well. But yeah, I'll have all the information down below for you guys. Now that I think about it, this video might go up before this look goes up on my Instagram, so yeah, you might have to just stay tuned for that, but I will have all the deets down below. I wanted to sit down today. I've been meaning to do this since the beginning of July, but there was kind of like that little shift there where I was going from the two channels and then going into just the one, combining lifestyle, beauty. So it was kind of like a really like awkward point. So I decided to go ahead and hold off on filming it because I was just kind of torn, like if I was going to keep posting this type of content on my other channel, and I didn't really want to put it here if I was going to put it over or film like I was putting it on that channel, but then put it on this one. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I ended up not filming it, and then fast forward and we're already about midway in July, which is mind-blowing. This year is just like flying at this point. But I kind of got lost in my books for July and was like, oh yeah, I haven't even talked about my books for June yet. So let me do that. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. My channel will always be evolving with me and, you know, what I'm into, what I enjoy doing. I have a bunch of hobbies. I like to mix it up and do a lot of different things. So bear with me there, but for the most part, I really hope to have a lot of book content. So if you are a bookworm, I think you'll really like it. Or if you're new here and you just found me because of books, I hope you stick around because I will have some more book videos coming. But I'm really excited to share with you guys what I read in June. This isn't even all of it. So I don't have my Kindle with me, so when I talk about books that I've read on my Kindle, I'll just throw up their picture, book cover over here or something. But I actually picked up actual books. I mentioned in a blog or a vlog that I've been thrifting a lot, and one of my favorite things to look at in thrift stores is books. I love old books. Might be gross to some people, but I even love the smell of old books. But there's just something about reading a worn out book. It's just so easy to do. I want to get more adventurous with it. I've been thrifting books, but like going for like authors that I know of or that I've read a book of theirs before. So I need to get a little bit more adventurous and grab some from some people I don't know. And I actually did this last trip to a thrift store. I actually picked up a couple of books. Maybe I'll put it in a vlog, but I picked up a couple books of authors that I've never read before, so I'm going to get a little bit more adventurous, but for now I'm going to show you guys in this video what I read in June because I read quite a bit. I went through a downfall in May once again. May, for some reason, is the month where my mental health just like, I don't know what it is, but I don't recover very well. Usually. This time around, I have to thank books for getting me back on my feet and in a good headspace, because towards the end of May, going into June, I could not stop reading, and within the first week of June, I had read, I kid you not, almost 10 books. A couple of them I haven't included in this just because I kind of finished them off like closer to May, so and I read them the majority of May, so I just kind of stuck them in a book blog, which I will have my book blogs linked down below for you guys. More is coming. I'm gonna have to review all of these, but I'll give you guys brief little reviews in this video. But yeah, I just fell headfirst into story after story after story, and I'm somebody who I usually start a few stories at a time. I also love savory reads. They're my favorite. I'll save that for the end. But I definitely got back into manga, which I was excited about. I am currently trying to go through One Piece, which, if you didn't know, has, I believe, over 100 volumes. So I'll be reading One Piece for a while. But no, in all seriousness, I had Tokyo Ghoul going, Vampire Knight, Bleach, Death Note, One Piece. I mean, there was just so many that I was like ordering, and honestly, I got really overwhelmed with it and I stopped manga for a minute, and then I started looking at just some like graphic novels instead, and I'm like, okay, I just need to like cool it. I'm going to just stick with one manga for a little while, and it's actually not going to be One Piece. I've really been enjoying One Piece, so I think I will still cave and get the next one soon. But I really just kind of want to tackle through the mangas that are shorter first, so I can kind of complete series, because that is one thing. Just like Stephen King books, I love collecting actual mangas. So I'm currently reading Vampire Knight and Tokyo Ghoul. I think those are going to be my first two that I'm going to try to complete, and then I think I'm actually going to go to Death Note, but in between I might pick up a One Piece or a Bleach every once in a while. The series is just so long with each of them. If you don't know, I'm sure you do know what manga is, but if you don't, because I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, it's pretty much like reading a comic book. They're actually, mangas can be graphic novels or comic book styles that pretty much came from Japan, and this is a really fun one called One Piece. This isn't like a mushy romance or anything like this. This one is like an adventure one, and I feel like, I don't know, I honestly feel like my kids could handle this. I mean, my kids can handle Fortnite and stuff like that, so I feel like they could handle this. I think it's really, really fun if you have kids that are even like around the age of like 10, I think would really like One Piece. Like I said, it's just adventure full. It's like, I guess you could say kind of like a thriller, because in some scenes I feel like, especially for younger kids, they might be like, you know, on the edge of their seat, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? But at the same time, it's almost like a comedy. Like, they make it very goofy at the same time, and that's why I think kids would really like it too. But there is violence. Let me just put that out there. There is violence, of course. They're pirates, and the main character, he wants to be like the overall king of the pirates or whatever, and he's just a little kid. And yeah, there's a lot more to it. It's a really cute story, and I love Luffy. I just think he is one of the funniest characters. This is volume 2, and if we got to meet Bucky, this clown pirate. But yeah, it's just like a little interesting adventure manga that I really have been enjoying. I'm only, like I said, I'm only volume 2 in, and I'm really hooked already, so that's why I think I'm going to keep having to buy some here and there to keep up with it. Like I mentioned, though, this is a little bit more mushy, but this was always my favorite manga. When I was younger, I really liked it, and I got hooked thanks to my sister a while back. I got hooked on these, and then I remember, I think I always got them from the library when I was a teen. I always got them from the library, so I had never collected the whole series. I've actually read most of the series. I just don't know for sure like how far I've read. I think as I read them, I'll keep continuing to kind of be like, oh yeah, you know, like, I've read this. But at the same time, just like One Piece, this is based off of, or I think it was written and then it was also made into an anime. So I have watched all of the anime on this. So no surprises really for me. Like, I know the story, I know what's gonna happen. I know what happens with like the characters, that type of ordeal, but I definitely want to complete the whole series, and I want to have all of these. So yeah, I'm starting to collect them. I have 1, 2, and then I think I have 1 more or 2 more. I think I have volume 3 and volume 4 if I'm not wrong. I don't know, I could be wrong. I've bought so many books recently that I'll have to see, but yeah, I'm excited to get the next one if I don't have it, or to start it if I do have it. But it's about, obviously, vampires. It is a school, an academy, with a day class and a night class. The day class doesn't know that the night class is full with vampires. There's a little bit... What I like about this one is that although it shows romance, it shows it in a very innocent way, like building up. So it's not like over the top mushy, but there's still sweet moments. And it's really interesting at the same time, and very much so kind of like a drama. But I think this one is definitely, I mean, the artwork and everything in it is incredible though, but I definitely think that this one is a nostalgic read for me. It just reminds me of when I was younger. I did get through Volume 1 and Volume 2 as I'm restarting them and wanting to go through the whole series. So if you're part of the beauty community, then you probably know who Samantha March is, and she is a beauty YouTuber, but she is also an author, and she has, I believe, quite a few books. I was actually surprised to see how many books she actually had. I have only read her series called The Six. There is obviously 6 parts. I believe only 3 of them have been, like, published out there, but pretty much it is about these 6 girls who are friends, and they've all, some of them, like, it's like just like a tight-knit group of friends, but like these 2 were like best friends growing up, and these 2 met in college, and these 2 met so-and-so, and they all met together like in college at some point, and they've all, you know, have just become friends over time, and that's like their group. So although they all kind of have like their best friend, they're all friends in the same group, and there's a lot of drama. It definitely is a chick lit, and that is definitely on brand for Samantha March. That's a lot of the books that she reads, so if you're not into chick lits, you probably won't like it, because I'm not the biggest fan of chick lits. I gave it a go with Samantha because I really like watching Samantha's videos. I was like, I'm just gonna try it. I'm more into suspense, thrillers, horror, or just adventure. Like, I like to have more going. Like, I do like the typical romance here and there, a little bit of like that chick lit vibe, but like not a lot. So I kind of have to sprinkle it in doses. So yeah, but overall, I do like her writing, and I do think that the characters are interesting. I have like the character development with them as well. I just read Lauren, I believe. I read this one on my Kindle, so I'll throw it up on the screen, but I believe it was Lauren, because the first book was Christy, and the second book was Scarlet, and I think this one was Lauren. And I can say I liked Lauren's story a hell of a lot better than Scarlet's. For some reason, I just did not mix with Scarlet, but I felt for Lauren a lot, and I feel like, I think the thing that I love the most that Samantha is doing with this is that these girls are so relatable. So if you're in your 20s, your 30s, you're still like trying to, I mean, who's not trying to figure out life and what they want to be, who they are, and all of that. But it just really resonated with me as someone who is still pretty young, and sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing in life, you know? So I feel like in a lot of ways I can relate to them, and if anything, it's just kind of like a cute little chick flick, you know? Like the chick lit vibe. Like, it's just kind of fun, but can kind of be a little tear-jerky, but also is interesting. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like nosy in on their life. It just seems so realistic, like these girls are real. So I do appreciate the writing, and yeah, give it a go if you like that type of book, and if you don't, you just want to kind of give it a go because you're like me, you know, or you watch Samantha March, you feel like you know her, then try it out. They're a pretty quick read, and really easy to like the writing style for sure. So the first book that I started with this month was Carrie from Stephen King. I actually could not find this at a thrift store, so I ended up ordering it. And I have set a goal for myself this year to start reading more, obviously. But I want to read all of Stephen King's books in order because I've read some scattered out, but I had just realized that I had never, like, on my book blogs, I've never read a Stephen King's book and, like, reviewed it on a book blog before. A lot of them I haven't read in years, so that's why I want to, like, reread them too with my fresh mind now, and see what I think about them. But also, he is just probably my favorite author. I really, really enjoy his writing, and I feel like out of any author, I just get lost in the story. Like, I feel like I'm in that story, and so, like, insane at times, especially when you're reading, like, a scary one. You're just like, oh my gosh, you're like... But this past winter, from, like, October to December-ish, I had a savory read, and I love having his as my savory reads, especially the longer ones, because I just read them when I'm really in the mood to read, and it's never like a forced thing. Like, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I really, need to read because I enjoy reading. I just have an anxiety-filled mind, so sometimes it has to be a little bit more forced, but then I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember, I love reading. But with my savory reads, they're definitely like, I want them to last over time, and I really cherish reading them. And that's what I do with most of his longer books, just because they take me forever to get through. And I'm always afraid too, the longer the book is, I'm afraid I'm going to get like half of the way in and be like, all right, so I try to make them a little bit more savory, kind of read books in between while I'm reading that savory read. Just to kind of switch things up. I know some people just have to focus in on one book at a time, and I kind of wish my mind worked that way. But this was definitely a shorter one, so I was able to just read this one the first week of June, and I just fell in love again with his writing. I hadn't read a Stephen King book since the winter when I read The Shining, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to start another spookier one for the fall savory read, again a longer one, because I absolutely love a spooky savory read for the winter time. One of these years I'm gonna, or maybe even this year, I don't know, we'll see. I kind of wanted to read them in order as much as possible, but at the same time I'm not making it like really intense on myself either, because I'm trying to thrift a lot of them if I can find them, but I want a collection of all of his books. But it's been a little tricky, but thank God there is thrift book shops like online as well, so I've just been looking around and just buying them little by little at those as well. But yeah, I read Carrie. This is actually the first time I've read Carrie, and I've seen the movie. Well, I actually haven't seen the newer movie of Carrie. I've only seen the original Carrie movie. So I obviously knew like the gist and everything of it, but this was actually the first time that I had read it. And oh my gosh, it was just so good. Like I said, it was the first Stephen King book since the winter, and I just love his writing so much. It's just so easy to fall right into it. But this one is really, really interesting. It definitely is like you feel a type of way when you read it, and you really feel for Carrie in a lot of ways. And it's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's a phenomenal read. If you've only watched the movie, you should definitely read it. The books are always better than the movies. And that's saying a lot, because I feel like a lot of the movies that are based off Stephen King's books are really, really good. Some of the best movies, but like the books are even better. They're so good. The next book I picked up, I read The Invisible Life of Addie Larue a couple months ago, and I absolutely fell in love with V.E. Schwab. I think that's how you say her name. I know it's Victoria Schwab, but I fell in love with her writing in that book. It was like unlike anything I've ever read before. It was very, very different, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was very, what is the right words? just amazing storytelling, and just, I think the overall story was so different too, but it really intrigued me more to read more from the author. And so I picked up the first book out of a trilogy, which usually if I see an author has a trilogy, I am more prone to try to grab one of their standalone books before starting the series, because I'm someone that I have to really vibe with the author, the way that they write, the way that they word things, for me to really fall in love with their books. Because if it's a bore fest or it's just not resonating with me, it's really hard for me to enjoy it and stick along with it. But at the same time, I will start a series, and even if I don't like how the author writes it, or the characters, you know, all those things that I just named off, if I'm not vibing with it, I still feel forced to read it, because I'm just like, oh, I still want to know what happens. And it's just so irritating, because you're just like, yeah. So I've learned my lesson many times, and that's why I try to read standalones first. So that's what I did. But I've heard great things about The Invisible Life of Addie Larue, and if you haven't read it, you can check out my book blog for more on it. It was really good, though. I highly recommend. But since I liked her writing style so much, I picked up Vicious. I'll throw it up. I have it on my Kindle. I'm so invested. I'm ready to pick up the next one. I read this at the beginning of June, so I kind of just like lost track with it because I fell in so many other books and different, you know, series and stuff. But I want to go back to this series now. I'm going to have to get the next one, even if it's on my Kindle too. But I just love the way that everything is worded. I love her storytelling so much, but this is, you know, a new series, unlike, you know, the Addie Larue book. So new characters, but I actually like fell hard for the characters already. And it's so crazy because it's like the characters on like both sides, and I just want to know what happens next. It's that type of feeling but it's very much so more like a thriller. You have a little bit of like suspense there of, you know, what's happening. It kind of bounces back and forth between characters, but there's also kind of like this like sci-fi edge to it as well. Talking about EOs, extraordinaries. And I don't know, it's really cool. I definitely would check it out if you're interested in that type of ordeal. I usually think I don't know if I'm really gonna like go for sci-fi a whole lot, even though I do love, you know, some sci-fi from Stephen King, but I definitely am starting to get into it a lot more now than I used to. But I really enjoyed the first book. It was really easy to fly through because I was just so invested in the storyline. Okay, next up, I think I only have a few more to mention. But next up, these were sort of recommended to me by my sister as well. She does a lot of reading, and she just recommended the author Karen Slaughter, and she told me which series that she really liked. And I kind of went in blindly. At the thrift store, I found a bunch of her books at a booth, so I have picked up quite a few. I think I have this whole series now ready to read, so I'm going to be reading on Karen Slaughter books for a while, but I'm a true crime junkie. I have a podcast called Caffeine Crime. I just love the investigation side of it, and I love seeing the case unfold, and honestly, like, I even love like the criminology side of things, like getting into like the killer's headspace, like what makes a person do that. Yeah, have always really enjoyed true crime. Not that I am happy that stuff like that happens, because obviously I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but I do, just like many people, enjoy the crime solving and like getting down to the bottom of it. And Karen Slaughter does not hold back. And my sister, she warned me. She said she does not hold back. It's very graphic, and it definitely is. It is very much so like watching a very graphic crime show for sure. And I feel like I have really stuck with it because I do enjoy her writing, and I kind of am glad that she kind of just throws it out there for you. She doesn't leave you hanging with things. You really feel like you're part of the investigation and trying to find the suspect in every book so far. So I really have enjoyed this series so far. The only thing that I feel like I haven't vibed with these, I don't think I've mentioned, I read these two in June. So it's a series. This is her Grant County. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah. What's really cool is that this series follows the same characters. Obviously, it's a series, but it's in the same town. It's a small town, so you kind of have like that small, you know, town vibe, which sometimes is really good, sometimes isn't great. And that's been the only thing, is that it's really hard sometimes following along with the characters and the way that they think, because it's just like, sometimes it's like the complete opposite of yourself, and you're like, oh my god, you know? Some of the choices are just a little, and I have felt like the further I get in the series, my only other complaint besides not really vibing with most of the characters, has just been, sometimes you kind of just get like the vibe that's just like, oh, okay, that's really far-fetched, you know? Kind of like that. So I have to say, I have felt that a couple of times. Now, mind you, these are a little bit older. I think these are like early 2000s, maybe even before that. They might be 90s. So I feel like just because she's very out there or very detailed about things, sometimes it does seem a little bit more far-fetched. I feel like she's really good at reeling it back in, and that's what I really enjoy. I always wait for that moment to where it reels back in, and it did with both of these. So I really appreciate that about it. And although I'm on the third book right now. I'm like halfway through the third book. And although I'm not vibing with these characters a whole lot, I still appreciate reading them. Like, I really like them. I feel like it's kind of just like watching any type of like Law and Order or CSI, that type of ordeal, where even if you don't really care for like that cast, it's like you're still there for like the individual, like each episode is a new case. So you're kind of there for the case as well. But what I'm really excited about is that I have bought some of her other books as well. So I'm excited to try some of her other series and see, because I've heard that they're a lot better than this one too. So that only makes me more excited, and I'm looking forward to that. But I definitely want to read these. I want to see how this whole series wraps up. This one kind of starts the series out, Blindsided. It is kind of introducing all the characters, the town as a whole. You have your main character who is the like pediatrician of the town. She also works in the morgue as the county coroner. Her ex-husband is the chief of police. So there's like this like tension between them, but there's also like love still there. So you kind of have a little bit of mushiness, but not heavy. So I do kind of like that. I like that she really focuses in more so on the cases. And a lot of the time the cases actually tie in to the people, like the main characters. Kiss Cut was very, very heavy, especially right now with everything going on with Roe versus Wade being overturned. I felt like it was a lot more heavy to read around this time with all of that going on. But nonetheless, it's just another case. I believe it was a little bit longer than the first book, but I feel like there's also quite a bit of character development in it as well, and you see even more character development going into the third one as well. So I do appreciate that. I hope that they continue on with it, because, man, there's still some characters that I'm just like... Lastly, my savory read for the summer, actually, is the longest book that Stephen King has ever written, The Stand. And fun fact, I have never watched any of The Stands. I think there's actually a more recent show, maybe this year or last year, that came out of The Stand. And I have avoided all of them. And I've always said that I was going to read this book all the way through. So that's what I'm doing this summer. I was just joking with my husband the other day, James, that I feel like I will read and read and read chapter after chapter after chapter, and then I got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like a quarter of the way. I was looking at it and I was like, I'm a quarter of the way through it. And I've read several more chapters, and then I look at it and I'm like, I think I'm still just a quarter of the way through it. It is very, very long, and I think it makes it even more longer because, like, the pages in this book are just so big that they feel like they go on forever. But since I knew a little bit of the gist, but I really went into this book pretty blind on, like, the characters and everything that goes down. So it's been really exciting. I'm kind of glad I didn't read this in 2020. But in this case, a certain strain of this flu gets released, and it really bounces back and forth state to state to state. It really shows you like the entire, United States and how all the people are coping with this, and it's really crazy. It's almost like the world wipeout, pretty much. It's insane. But I really have been enjoying it so far. I'm glad it's a savory read. It's the first Stephen King's book that I felt like I'm a little lost here and there, just because with each chapter it bounces back to like a different state, a different person, and it's like, it's really hard at times until people are kind of like being picked off. I'm like, who's gonna be the last one standing, I feel like I'm finally getting it to a comfortable point where like I flip the page to a new chapter and I'm like, okay, I know who this person is. So I'm finally getting to that point, but there's just so many names that it would start in and mention that person's name that, I'm reading from their perspective now, and I'd be like, who is this again? What is their life story again? So yeah, I'm finally getting to that point. I can say this is supposed to be the best book from him with character development, which I'm sure with how long this thing is and how it is so far, the character development is wild. So I am still currently reading it, of course. You guys can kind of see where I'm at. I have quite a bit to go. But I did meet my goal for June. I have a reading goal on my savory reads just to kind of keep myself going with them, because I'm picking up so many other books that I want to make sure that I stay focused on my savory read too, from June to August. And I met my goal June. I haven't been doing too hot for July. I have read on it, but my reading has definitely slowed down this month quite a bit. So I'm probably not going to have near as many books next month to talk about. Unfortunately, I'm trying to keep my reading goal higher, but I've just been really overwhelmed with a lot of other stuff going on. So yeah, my reading is kind of starting to slack a little bit this month. I think I'm about to finish 2 other books, and then I really have to get my butt in gear and getting reading done on this one before August comes. But I don't know. I may end up reading this one into September as well, because I don't want to it's a savory. It's not supposed to be too forced. But I just enjoy picking it up when I'm in the mood for it. Yeah, I feel like there's not much more I can say about it, because like I said, I'm still like a quarter of the way in. I'm more than a quarter of the way now. It is a long one. I believe it's I think it's close to 1,200 pages. So, and again, the pages are so long, but I am really excited to get through it and see where the story goes. I feel like so much has happened already, and we're only that far in. It's just crazy. I think I did forget to mention though that this isn't even the original version. He came out, I think it was in the 90s, maybe 80s. I can't remember what year this book was, but later on he came out with the first rough draft of it or whatever, the uncut version, which was 400 more pages than the original one that he published. I think when he went to publish it, they were like, whoa, this is way too long. You need to cut it down. So he cut out 400 pages of it. And then later on, I guess that leaked. And so he brought out the uncut version with the 400 pages back in it. And that's what this is. So that's why it's so long, as I have the uncut version. So yeah, savory read for the summer. But I have so many more. I think I need to do a to be read or currently reading or something like that in a vlog coming up. So I'll try to do that soon for you guys, just so share some more of like my thrifting finds. I also borrowed some books from my mama. So yeah, I'm gonna be set for a while. I think the only book I forgot to mention was I'm reading the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket's with my boys. Mainly my oldest. My youngest, he kind of sticks around sometimes when he feels like it. He thinks it's funny that Sunny chews on everything. The youngest character in that book. But besides that, he's kind of just like, you know. But me and my oldest, Roman, are really enjoying the series. We did finish The Bad Beginning. I'll just throw it up here because I don't have it with me in here. But we finished The Bad Beginning together. It's just like a very short chapter book. He reads pages with me. We kind of go back and forth. It's been really nice to keep up with his reading over the summer. And it's really cool to be like reading chapter books and stuff like that with him. And he likes to say that sometimes he's like, oh, we're reading it, but once we start reading it, you can tell he really enjoys it. He giggles a lot and thinks the story is really interesting, always has questions, and I absolutely love that. And I always wanted to get my kids really into reading, so I'm hoping we can stick with it even after this series. But I think there's like 12 books or something in this, 12 or 13, so I'm excited to read through them with him. We finished The Bad Beginning, now we're on The Reptile Room, the second book. We're working on that this month, and sorry if I rambled so much. I could talk about books all day long, so I hope that I have some followers over here from my beauty channel who do like reading, or hopefully you've come from my lifestyle channel now that I'm kind of mesh and all over here. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you do love books, if you've read any of these, let me know. Or if you have any good recommends. My to be read list is super long, but I'm always down to hear what books you absolutely love. Especially if you have like good recommendations on true crime, thriller, suspense, adventure, like those type of vibes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. And I hope these were some good recommends for you as well. But I will see you guys in my next video. I should have a video for you guys tomorrow or very soon, so stay tuned. And I will see you guys then.